So I hope that profitability problems are kind of clearer at this point of time. We'll very quickly now see what all we have more to discuss to round up these issues. So this is done. This is done. Data centricity. Now I hope you see that at every point of time I'm trying to get more data from the situation. That's essentially the point about data centricity. Instead of being qualitative, be as quantitative as you possibly can be. Lay out the numbers and then fill in numbers. You would have figured out that first I draw out a structure and then I ask for details. It helps keep my problem solving process linear. So that's the only thing there. Now, MISI, process mapping, business framework, it should have been here as well. So these are the 4 things, 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4 are the ways, are the methods I use typically to structure my problem. 3, you might have heard of 3C, 1P, 5C, 4P, 7S, and so on and so forth. These are ideas which I don't use to solve my case. What I rather do is that I use these ideas to generate questions wherever I can and get better insights into the problem. So I'll discuss this thing again in the troubleshooting slide. But what I end up doing is that when I'm solving a case, if let's say by the 10th or the 15th minute, if I don't have clarity on the overall business problem, then I know that something is amiss. Just keep this idea in mind. I'll cover that in detail when I'm doing the troubleshooting slide in the next 5-7 minutes. Okay. So now I hope that these issues make sense. How do we break down revenue, market size, market share, segmentation, how we are using segmentation over and over again, and typically wherever we find a deviation and I keep comparing things between me and the competitor and me and my own past, those are the points from where insights will emerge. Cost side, fixed costs, variable costs. We've already discussed process mapping, and we have discussed that annual reports can give you a sense of fixed costs. For typically people who are doing an MBA, my one more suggestion is that beyond the pre, during, post, and having a list like this, the breakdown into pre, during, and post. One more thing is to just have a first year courses of B school in your mind and assign cost to those courses. So your marketing, HR, you can think of it from a hiring perspective if you want. What are the roles that typically firms hire for? What are the different career options broadly as we classify them? And what are the costs which are associated with them? Are there fixed costs associated with them? You will find that it's become much easier to come up with a bunch of fixed costs from either a career perspective or a first year course perspective. So law is a career, so litigation is a cost, marketing is a career, research is a career, all of those things. Preliminary questions. So already have a list of questions. You can check out this list in like a separate video on my YouTube page where I discuss this in some detail. But otherwise, you would have seen that these are the questions that we cover over and over again while we are dealing with the profit and loss problem. And these are questions that might be specific, might not be specific in certain situations. Ignore it. So these are just certain factors that, you know, matter in a manufactured good kind of a situation. The price, the product, the packaging, the promotion. For services, the location, the price, the service mix, the service quality. All of these are fairly self-obvious concepts. So I'm not going into the detail. Okay, just let me explain this through one example. So I remember reading this when for ketchup, when you had Pichku kind of the squeezable ketchup, when that came up, when packaging changed, the sale increased quite a bit. So the kind of store keeping unit that you have, 200 ml versus 2 liter, those things also drive change in the volume of consumption. Obviously, the core quality of the product is something which will matter. The price will matter. and how well and how effectively do you market, promote your product, that will also matter. Take the example of, from a service sector perspective, take the example of your car. Let's say you have to take your car for repair. What are the things that will matter to you when you decide a garage? Location. You would, as far as possible, if other things are fine, you would want location as close to your house as possible. Price would be a consideration. Service mix. Does this garage have like 10 different, so if my car has to have like 5 different issues, is one place enough, or do I have to go to 5 different places? I would ideally want one place to be able to handle all my needs. So the amount, the kind of mix that they have in the services would matter. And then overall quality of service. Now both the mix and the quality can have multiple dimensions, but typically I found in service sector cases, these are the 4 main parameters on which the buying decision hinges. So we have seen this slide over and over again in different examples. The basic steps that you'll follow in any case. Mini summary I've already covered what it is in the case itself, when to be used, and the benefit that makes it easy for the interviewer to follow. Highlight the strengths from your analysis, helps you stay course, and it can be the basis of a final summary. So the point that you bring up in your mini summary can give you an indication of how do you have to summarize the case eventually. And it's also a troubleshooting mechanism for me. If I'm stuck, I will summarize the case at that point of time. Okay, what I've done till that point and what I intend to do. It buys me about 10-15 seconds to actually tell what I've done till now and actually look at my sheet properly without having the added stress of trying to figure out what has to be done at this point of time. Okay, so I can take a step back from the analysis and have some moments of breathing time to look at what else is left in my sheet to do. So pretty helpful from that perspective. Conclusion. So this is the point number 7 that I keep talking about. Avoid waffling and leading with the answer. These two typically go hand in hand. Your solutions and your conclusions have to be very, very crisp. Leading with an answer typically happens when you are dealing with the market entry case that we'll read tomorrow, when it's a yes or no problem. Should we do this? Should we not do this? That kind of situation. And then yes/no, backed by 1, 2, 3 very crisp reasons which will avoid the waffling. Now these reasons have to come up only from the analysis, and I've already said that core versus non-core, to the extent possible, deal with core issues and then go with non-core issues to solve the problem. Pending further analysis, well, this is my way of hedging it. So given I'm only doing the analysis for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, what I end up doing is that I will say that these are the answers I've come up with, and pending further analysis, we could fine tune our answer. So that I say that these are only emergent answers, it allows me to, this ends up being an answer for a lot of cross questions that can happen. That, hey, if I'm asked a very difficult question, I can say pending further analysis. I mean, we can use further analysis to answer that question. Okay. So it also shows that I understand that these are emerging answers, not the final answers. Matrix, over and over again, we have discussed this: impact and feasibility, high, low, high, low. Okay. And just be crisp, correct, and confident while you're giving your conclusions or recommendations. So I hope you realize that instead of telling you the theory, I have introduced all of these ideas in the examples themselves so that you get the use cases better. And now we are just trying to see that we've covered all of this properly or not. Okay. Now, troubleshooting, if something is, if something is not very clear, something is, you are stuck, then I try to see if I can, if something, some branch of my analysis, is it not segmented, or is there a possibility of structuring things further? So that's all that is to it. Further structuring. See for unstructured things. Critical comparison and trend analysis. Let's say I have a data point lying somewhere. I'll try to immediately compare, oh, have I taken the competitor's lens to it, or have I taken my own past lens to it? So I'll quickly scan through the sheet and try to understand if all the data has been analyzed from these two lenses or not. Mini synthesis I've already covered is a useful troubleshooting tool. 4Ps and 5Cs. So you can look them up what they are, right? It's largely context, company, competitor, channel of sale, offline, online, those kind of things. Cost. Some people define it slightly differently also. Okay. 4Ps are your product, price, place, promotion. Place will be the same as channel essentially, very similar to that. So I typically try to see if I'm stuck, whether there is something that I have not already talked about. Now, I will not get perfect clarity, but I need to know whether I've touched upon these things or not. So if let's say I'm stuck, I'll quickly run through this list in my head and I'll see, oh, I might have not just talked about the competitor at all till now. So that becomes an important point for me to talk about. Maybe I don't know enough about the product. So if you are stuck, just run this and see if you have some clarity on all of these aspects or not. Okay. Ask or revisit your objective. Sometimes it just helps to see whether you are solving the right problem or not. Sometimes in our own analysis, we get drifted away. So just keep this in mind. And if nothing else works, just ask for help. You might have a few points dogged, but getting stuck there and staying stuck is far less desirable than actually moving forward and solving the case. So you might have later successes if you ask for help and get that help at that point of time. So that covers the discussion on profit and loss. Okay. And we can move to guesstimates now with the next part. This case also, so this is on the previous workshop with the undergrads. I've discussed this much in detail and I've put the video up. You can have a check that, you can check that video out and get a sense of what is there. One last part about profitability would be sales and growth. Now, these are very similar to profitability cases. Rather, this is just one part of profitability case, which is increasing revenue. Okay. And how do we do that? Now, just follow me here. There's not a lot of discussion which is required per se. Okay. It is pretty apparent that when we have a growth case in front of us, it's about expanding our revenue pool or the net amount of revenues that we have. So all we'll discuss are different strategies which will allow us to do that. And what I'm trying to do here is to, let's say, move from avenues which are from higher difficulty to lower difficulty. Obviously, depending upon the industry, the lens might change. Something which I'm calling higher difficulty here might become lower difficulty in some other industry. So this is just an approach. You can always change the order of things as you see them. Okay. So if I have to grow my business, the first thing would be that I have to make a choice whether it's an organic way of growing or an inorganic way of growing. An inorganic way of growing the business would mean that I end up having some kind of an acquisition. Okay. That would be inorganic. Typically, there are a whole bunch of issues, right from regulation to cultural issues, which can come in that direction. So if I want to retain a higher degree of control, I might want to do a more organic growth. The benefit of inorganic growth can be, it can give you a lot of speed and it can simplify the competitive scenario. It can consolidate the market better. So depending on the context, you might want to pick one of the two. But let's say we pick organic. With inorganic, then you will have it essentially will translate into a M&A kind of a case. Okay. When we talk about organic, then you have the option of repeating everything you are doing right now in a new geography. So those are untapped customers. That's what typically companies do when they move from, let's say, US to India. That Apple is trying to bring in its services that it has in the US to India. So you could go into new geography. That requires a lot of market research, market scoping, setting up channels for sale and everything. So it's a little difficult, but could be done. Now, everything I will cover under same geography are the things I will actually look at in new geography as well. So while I'm only looking at same geography, those things would be in new geography as well if I was to go down that path. But let's say we're looking at same geography. Then what do we do? So let's take the case of Apple in 2000, whatever, 2000 itself, or 2005. Okay, just some random. So Apple wants to grow its sales in the US itself. Now, let's say they have only 2 products in the market. I don't remember when iPhone was launched, but let's assume it's the year 2000. And iPhone is not out there, and they have the Mac as their main product. And they are selling the Mac, let's say, through offline channels. They might decide that one more way we can reach out to more customers is to have new channels added. So we might have new stores which we are planning to add, new kind of store formats we can add, we can move online. So all those bunch of things we can do in the new channel. Or Apple might decide that let's go through the same channel, but here we have the possibility of either selling the same product, the Macintosh, or we can come up with new products. With new products, you have essentially 3 types of possibilities. The first and the second come under the first category, differentiated product. So differentiated product, we can come up with more models of the Mac. That's one kind of new product we can have. Or I can see myself beyond just a Mac producer to a technology company, and I can say, okay, fine, let me diversify to new kinds of innovative tech products. So phones or iPods, that could be the new kind of product. Or I could say, no, I am actually not a tech company per se, I'm just like a brilliant marketer. So whatever I sell will sell, and market has told me that, fragrances are the new thing. So now let me come up with something of a eye fragrance product. Okay. Now what you end up doing will depend upon your capabilities, what the market is. So while I'm just listing these things down, these would require significant amount of conversation with the interviewer. Typically only one of these many things that you have will be part of your case. What I like doing is laying out the structure so exhaustively so the interviewer knows that whatever is required I can get done, because my framework is complete of almost everything that is required when it comes to growing. Okay, so 3 types of growth that can happen, or 3 new products that can happen. Or I could say, no, let me stick with the Macintosh. And what I can do is I can sell things to the same consumer, or I have to sell something to the new consumer. So if I have to go to the new consumers, maybe I have to switch my price point, maybe I have to do some kind of marketing. So we go into an analysis of that front. Or with the same consumer, what do I do? Either I make them buy more Macintosh more frequently, or I can create a basket of things. Basically, I start upselling things. So either I can change my price, or I can create a basket or upsell. So maybe I sell warranties also. I can try to create more use scenarios that, hey, this is not a computer that you buy just for your office purposes. It's a computer you can buy for your kids also. So for the same person, I'm now trying to sell them 2 computers instead of 1 by saying that this is not just for office use, this can be used for your home purposes as well. Whatever. So I'm trying to think from a 2000 lens. Okay. So I hope this gives you an idea, and the Apple example gives you some sense. Just remember this broad framework. Okay, you can use it for any kind of growth example. Take one suggestion would be, take any company or any idea that you have in mind and try to imagine this framework and apply it there, and you will get very comfortable with it.